Barbara in Dallas, Texas. So, hey, how's it going? What can I do? How can I help?
Okay, so I'm calling to ask about how I can navigate my husband, most likely being an alcoholic.
Ugh.
I'm getting to a point where I don't want to be in this anymore if I'm going to have to be the adult every single night and put our kids to bed while he's like drunk a little too much and he's knocked out of sleep on the couch. So we are both 25, we're married, and we have a toddler and a newborn. Oof. And why it hurts so much to me is, for one, obviously I love this guy. I do not want to see him go down a hole. And then two, my parents have gone through so much to end a generational curse of alcoholism. And obviously, with that being said, we both come from families who have or still abuse alcohol. And I just really don't want to get to a point where I'm going to be in the hospital and I'm going to find myself seeing my husband with liver cirrhosis or just something like that. And I deserve better. He deserves better, and our children do too.
Yeah, I'm high-fiving you, and I'm heartbroken for you. I'm hugging you and high-fiving you at the same time. I'm so sorry that's happening. So let's walk back a little bit. Is this new behavior, or has he always been the guy that had one or two too many, but he was funny about it, he was silly about it, and now it's starting to wear on you because you got little kids? Or has this come on in the last couple of years as you've brought toddlers home into the house?
Okay, so we've been together since we were about 14 or 15 years old.
Okay.
So all throughout high school, he was very adamant about not drinking, not doing any of that. And then after high school, we had a breakup, and then he ended up dropping out of college. And in that state that he was in of our breakup, him leaving school, I guess he felt like, in a sense, he wasn't good enough. So, of course, there was some sort of trauma, I guess, from that. And that's whenever he started developing bad habits. Mm-hmm. And then we got together. So that was in 2015. We had broken up for a year. And so I guess he developed those in 2015, 2016. And so we got back together in 2016 and eventually got married in 2018. And in 2018, it wasn't as bad, but I could see there was some, for lack of better words, demons that he brought along into our marriage that he didn't put down.
So why did you marry a guy that you saw with a problem?
I guess you can say I'm a fixer person. Mm-hmm. I thought us getting married and planning our future was going to send an alarm in his head, saying, "Oh, there's something better for me."
Barbara, you are sweet and kind like me. I thought that the country would just come together, and look at that. So look at us, right? We're such naive optimists. So
yeah.
Does he have alcoholism in his family, or mental health issues, or trauma in his family? He's got it too?
Yes.
Okay.
His dad passed away at a very young age. Mm-hmm. His stepdad, I hate to say this, but I think his stepdad has a drinking problem too.
Okay.
And I think it was more of a learned behavior for him, because his stepdad started drinking whiskey, and the next thing you know, a month later, my husband's going to Specs and buying a bottle of whiskey. I'm just
sure. So when you sat down and talked to him, how does that conversation go?
He thinks I'm belittling him.
Okay. Are you?
And that, no, not at all. I've come from a family where my dad used to do that. Mm-hmm. When I was a very, very, very small child. I barely remember it. And I know that it can lead to so many other bigger problems. And I just don't want him to find himself in a big problem where he can't, he thinks he can't get out of. Because whenever you drink, it's not really you. You're being controlled by that substance.
Well, sometimes, and if you're an alcoholic and you've got a problem and you're intoxicated all the time, then yeah. So how can I help you?
I don't know how to help him.
So I'm I'm going to be totally honest with you, okay?
Okay.
Both up and down. Number one, you can't. You can't make him do anything. You can't weaponizing your body, weaponizing your kids, weaponizing the home and family he has won't fix that problem. A great, mighty blowout fight won't fix that problem. He's going to have to make a decision that he's going to have to plug in and be the dad that those kids desperately deserve. That he is not going to continue a legacy that wasn't his biological dad's fault. He passed away. He's not, but he's got a legacy in his soul now of a disconnection between a son and his dad. And alcohol fills that for a while. It actually works. That's the problem with it. It works for a while. And it helps numb that forest fire in your soul for a season, right? Until it burns everything around you down. He's going to have to learn some behaviors and decide, I'm going to be the father these kids deserve. And what you're going to have to do is develop boundaries and be real honest with him. And you're going to have to get a community of people around you, and he's going to need people in his life. And there is a chance that a letter that he can hear that you write that is not going to war with him, but is compassionate, letting him know that you love him and you are by him and he's your guy and you are in all of this, but that you are losing him and you want him back. And here's what that's going to look like. Here's why I like letters, and I say letters almost every show. Here's why I like it. When you talk to an addict, when you talk to an angry person, and they feel the slightest bit of you versus them, every wall they have throws up, and they don't hear you, right? And then he says things like, you're belittling me, you're attacking me, which honestly you might be. You may not feel like you are, but you may be hearing it that way, right? A letter allows him to get defensive and get his feelings hurt and then come back to it. And then come back to it. And you get to hold it in your hand. There's something about the tactile. It's not an email either, especially it's not a text, for God's sake. But you get to hold a handwritten letter. He gets to see your handwriting. And there's something about going back to it that it slowly can seep through you. It doesn't always work. You can throw it away. You can water up and throw it in a fireplace, right? But it's letting him know that you're losing him. And that you have if he's not hurting your kids and he's neglecting your kids, let him know, man. The kids miss you. I miss you. And you both probably have some learning to do on how to be connected, intentional, unified parents here. Oh, great. I used the word unity again. There I go. Throwing liberal propaganda all over my show. Being unified parents, right? Y'all are going to have to both learn how to do that. If you come from a house alcoholics do, you're going to have to learn that as well, right? But if you offer to do it together, he may join you. He may not. That doesn't mean that you don't need to go learn some skills on your own. So write him that letter and make it heartfelt. Take him out somewhere. Or have a place where the kids are gone, you've got a babysitter, and y'all can have a heart-to-heart conversation that's not a fight, that's something y'all plan together, and that he can actually hear you. And if he can't have that, then it may just be leaving that letter for him and letting it marinate, right? And then the second thing is you got to go start taking care of you. That means I'm going to recommend you go see somebody, go see a marriage counselor, go see a counselor on your own, and let them know, I've got trauma in my background that I've got to deal with. I need to learn how to be a connected, good mom. No 25-year-old married couple with two little ones are going to have great lives right now. They're just not. They're going to be filled with no sleep and exhaustion and people walking around looking like they were hit by a bus and everybody's falling asleep on the couch all the time. That's part of it. And sometimes getting a counselor that can walk you through some of that is relieving, right? It gives you some peace. And hopefully he will see you standing taller, being more intentional, being more plugged in, being more whole, and he's going to want to be a part of that. But all of that rests on a foundation of you can't solve him. You can't cure him. You can't make him. He's going to have to make some hard decisions in his own soul. My hope is he's got a couple of men there in his life that will be really up in his face and that will be intentional with holding him accountable in a way that you can't. And my hope is that a letter and a night together That's not a fight. That's not a war, but that is hey, we got to come together. He'll hear you. He'll finally hear you. This is a hard one, Barbara, and I don't want to make it light. My guess is you're going to have some seasons of rough waters ahead. And don't let any of this deflect you from the kind of parent and the kind of mom that your kids desperately deserve. Don't let any of this reflect on you, that you have a right to boundaries, you have a right to safety, you have a right to a whole, healthy, well life. And man, I hope he plugs in. I want you to do me this huge favor, Barbara. I want you to write him this letter. I want you to be vulnerable and have this hard conversation with him in a compassionate way, in an offline way, in an intentional way. And then I want you to let me know how that goes. And if he doesn't hear it from you, tell him to call the show, and I'd love to talk to him as well. I've talked to my fair share of 25-year-old Texans who love whiskey and who are struggling with dealing with 2 young kids and a wife that loves them. And I'd love to have that conversation with him too. But thank you so much for that call.